You're at your desk. Thursday afternoon, 4:30 p.m., your manager just sent you another project. Can you handle this by Monday? You're so good at these. You're already working on 3 other things. You're staying late most nights. You haven't taken a real lunch break in 2 weeks. But you say yes, because that's what you do. You're reliable. You're the person who gets things done. And here's what's weird. Your performance review last month was glowing. Exceeds expectations in every category. Your manager loves you, your coworkers respect you, you're objectively good at your job. But your salary is $64,000, same as it was 2 years ago. The person who sits next to you, who does less work and complains more, just got promoted to $73,000. You're working harder, producing more, getting better reviews, and making less money. And there's a specific reason why being too good at your job is actually keeping you poor. My name's Peter, and if you've ever felt like your hard work isn't translating into higher pay, and you want to understand why competence doesn't equal compensation, hit that subscribe button, because the relationship between performance and earnings is the opposite of what you think. There are 5 specific reasons why being exceptional at your job keeps you underpaid, and I'm going to walk through all 5 of them.
So let's start with what actually happens when you're really good at your job. You make $64,000 as a marketing coordinator. You're efficient, you meet deadlines, you go above and beyond. When someone needs help, you help them. When there's a problem, you solve it. Your manager relies on you. When something urgent comes up, you're the first person she asks. When a client needs something fast, she assigns it to you because she knows it'll get done right. And here's what you're thinking. This is how you get promoted. Work hard, demonstrate value, prove you're indispensable, get rewarded. Except that's not what's happening. Here's your actual financial trajectory. Year 1, hired at $58,000. You work hard, you're dependable. Performance review, meets expectations. Year 2, salary increases to $61,000. That's a 5.2% raise. You're now handling more responsibility. Performance review exceeds expectations. Year 3, salary increases to $64,000. That's a 4.9% raise. You're now managing key accounts and training new hires. Performance review consistently exceeds expectations. Critical team member. Year 4, salary stays at $64,000. Budget freeze. You're told, we value you, but there's no room for raises this year. You're doing the work of 2 people now. Performance review, outstanding performance. Year 5, salary increases to $66,000. That's a 3.1% raise. You're now essentially functioning as a senior coordinator without the title. Performance review, invaluable to the team. Over 5 years, your salary increased $8,000. That's a 13.8% total increase. Meanwhile, inflation was 18% over that same period. Your real purchasing power decreased. You got better at your job. Your responsibilities increased. Your value to the company increased. Your compensation, in real terms, decreased. Meanwhile, your coworker, we'll call him Mike, has a different trajectory. Mike does acceptable work. Not great, not terrible, acceptable. He meets deadlines, mostly. He's not the first person to volunteer for extra projects. He leaves at 5 p.m. every day. Year 1, hired at $58,000. Year 2, salary increases to $60,000. Year 3, Mike gets frustrated with his salary, updates his resume, gets an offer from another company for $68,000. Tells your manager he's leaving. Year 3, your company counters at $70,000. Mike stays. Year 4, Mike does the same acceptable work at $70,000. Year 5, Mike gets recruited again, gets an offer for $77,000. Leaves this time. Mike's salary increased $19,000 in 5 years. That's a 32.8% increase. He never exceeded expectations. He was never indispensable. He just leveraged the threat of leaving to extract higher compensation. You worked harder. You were more valuable. You made less.
And this is the pattern that almost no one talks about. In most companies, the highest raises don't go to the best performers. They go to the people willing to leave. Most people think career growth works like this. Perform well, get promoted, earn more. Linear progression, meritocracy. That's not how it works. That's the trap. Here's what actually happens. Companies have two budget categories for compensation: retention budget and standard increases. Standard increases, 3 to 5% annually for current employees. Doesn't matter if you're average or exceptional, the range is 3 to 5%. Retention budget, 15 to 25% to counter offers when someone threatens to leave. This budget is flexible. It activates when there's a business risk. You, the high performer, get standard increases because you're not a flight risk. You're dependable. You're not going anywhere. So there's no business urgency to pay you more. Mike, the acceptable performer, threatens to leave. Now there's urgency. Finding and training a replacement costs time and money. Easier to pay more to keep him. He gets retention budget. The system doesn't reward performance. It rewards the credible threat of departure. And here's the mechanism that makes this particularly brutal. Your competence makes you less valuable in the compensation conversation. When you're really good at your job, you become load-bearing. Your manager depends on you. Losing you would hurt, but that dependency doesn't translate to higher pay. It translates to golden handcuffs. Your manager thinks, she's critical to operations. I can't risk upsetting her. But she's not asking for more money. She seems happy. Why would I proactively increase her salary and use up my budget when I could save it for someone who's actually threatening to leave? Meanwhile, Mike is mediocre. Losing Mike would be inconvenient, not catastrophic. But Mike is actively job hunting. He has leverage. The threat is real. So the company pays Mike more to stay, even though you're more valuable, because the immediate business risk is Mike leaving, not you underperforming. You're being penalized for competence. Your reliability makes you safe to underpay. There's a specific psychological mechanism that keeps high performers trapped in this cycle. It's called reciprocity bias, combined with identity attachment. You work hard, you go above and beyond, and your brain tells you a story. My hard work will be recognized and rewarded. My manager sees my value. When the time is right, I'll be promoted. That story keeps you working hard while getting paid less than you're worth, because you believe the reward is coming. You just have to keep proving yourself. Meanwhile, your identity becomes attached to being the reliable one, the person who gets things done, the one people count on. And that identity feels good. It feels meaningful. It creates a sense of worth. But that worth is emotional, not financial. You're getting paid in validation, not money. And companies know this, not explicitly, but structurally the system rewards this. Keep high performers happy with titles, recognition, additional responsibility. Pay them slightly more each year. Not enough to match their value, but enough that they feel appreciated. Then use the real budget on retention when someone threatens to leave. Your brain interprets more responsibility as career progress, but it's not. It's scope creep. You're doing more work for marginally more pay, while your actual market value increases faster than your salary. And because you're attached to the identity of being good at your job, you don't realize you're being exploited. You think you're advancing. You're actually falling behind. So let's run the math on what being too good at your job actually costs you over a 10-year career. Path A. You stay at one company. You're excellent. You get promoted internally twice. Your salary goes from $58,000 to $64,000 to $72,000 to $81,000 over 10 years. Total 10-year earnings? Approximately $720,000. Path B. Mike's approach. You're acceptable. You change jobs every 2 to 3 years, each time getting 15 to 20% increases. Your salary goes from $58,000 to $68,000 to $81,000 to $97,000 over 10 years. Total 10-year earnings? Approximately $820,000. That's a $100,000 difference over 10 years. Same career field, same skill level. One person optimized for performance, one optimized for market rate. The market rate optimizer made $100,000 more. And here's what that $100,000 represents. That's a down payment on a house.
That's fully funded retirement accounts. That's financial security you didn't get because you were too good at your job to leave. You're lying in bed, Sunday night, 11 p.m. You're thinking about tomorrow. You've got 4 projects due this week. Your manager just assigned you another one on Friday. You're working 50-hour weeks. You're making $66,000. You just found out your company hired someone new for your same role at $72,000. A person with less experience who will need training from you. And that tightness in your chest, it's the realization that you're being taken advantage of, not maliciously, structurally. You're too valuable to lose and too reliable to worry about. So you get predictable raises while the budget goes to recruiting and retention. You stayed because you're good at your job. You should have left because you're good at your job. So here's how people who actually maximize their lifetime earnings think about performance and compensation differently. They understand that competence is leverage, not loyalty. When they get really good at something, they don't double down at their current company. They take that competence to market. Every 2 to 3 years, they check what their skills are worth, not by asking their manager, by interviewing elsewhere. They get offers, real numbers, market rate data. Then they make a decision. Either their current company pays market rate, or they take the offer. No hard feelings, just business. They don't wait for their company to recognize their value. They force the recognition by demonstrating they have options. When they take on additional responsibility, they immediately ask, what's the compensation adjustment for this expanded scope? They don't accept, let's see how it goes, or we'll review it at your next performance review. They negotiate the salary increase before accepting the additional work. When they're offered a promotion, they research the market rate for that title and insist on compensation at market rate. If the company won't pay it, they find a company that will. They separate their identity from their job. They're good at what they do, but they don't need to be the reliable one, the go-to person, the indispensable employee. They're willing to be good enough while they look for better compensation. While most people optimize for being valued at their current company, they optimize for being compensated at market rate. Completely different priority.
This doesn't make you a job hopper. It doesn't make you disloyal. But here's what it does. You stop accepting great performance review as a substitute for fair compensation. You know that praise without pay is exploitation dressed as appreciation. You stop feeling guilty about interviewing. You're not betraying your company by knowing what you're worth. You're protecting yourself from being systematically underpaid. You stop working harder hoping it'll be rewarded. You work hard enough to maintain your skills and reputation, but you don't sacrifice your life for a company that views you as a sunk cost. You make decisions based on your financial reality, not your emotional attachment to being good at your job. Now, let me be clear about something. I'm not saying you should be bad at your job. I'm not saying you should do the minimum. I'm saying that being exceptionally good at your job in the same position at the same company for years is a financially losing strategy. Your competence should be portable. You should be so good at what you do that you can walk into another company and command a premium. That's the value of competence, not staying put and hoping your current employer eventually pays you what you're worth. Because they won't. Not because they're evil, because the system doesn't require them to. As long as you stay and accept incremental raises, they'll keep giving you incremental raises. The only time they pay you what you're worth is when someone else is trying to hire you away. So here's the thing about stopping being good at your job. The advice isn't actually to perform worse. The advice is to stop believing that performance alone drives compensation. It doesn't. Market leverage drives compensation. And market leverage comes from being willing to leave, not from being indispensable where you are. Most people spend their careers optimizing to be the best employee at their company. The smart ones spend their careers optimizing to be the best compensated professional in their field. Same skills, different strategy, completely different financial outcome. Being good at your job is how you build skills. Being willing to leave is how you get paid for those skills. And confusing the two is how you spend 10 years working harder than your peers while earning less.